half the battle of work is getting in the right mindset. And getting in the right mindset requires you to feel like you're appreciated. Easy way to feel appreciated is to get recognized by someone. And that someone, like I said, can be a peer, it can be someone who works for you, or it could be someone that you work for.
Hey everybody, welcome to PeopleMetrics Live. In today's session, we're going to be sharing some of our favorite creative and affordable employee recognition ideas, many of which you can start implementing within your own organization right after this call. So we're really excited to get started with this one. All right, guys, so let's kick it off. Why are we talking about employee recognition today?
Well, I think kind of if you've attended any of our sessions so far, definitely one thing we've talked about is how important employee engagement is, and that's definitely the case of just having an engaged employee base has just benefits in employee retention, the work they do, and customer retention and loyalty kind of therefore cascading from that. And the thing about driving employee engagement is oftentimes companies can get kind of caught up in it's hard to really focus on this and improve it. It takes a big program to improve this. We have to have a very rigid kind of career path set up that we're doing to improve employee engagement or some larger organizational initiative. So that can be a stumbling block for folks. And so why we're talking about employee recognition is it's one of those things that makes it easy to improve employee engagement right off the bat. Often employee recognition, recognizing the work that employees are doing at your organization is something that's cheap and affordable, and something that we know from our research is a big driver of employee engagement. So that is kind of ultimately why we want to make this a focus here. It is high impact and it is often low spend for folks, which makes it something that when you look to improve employee engagement, that should be a core focus for you.
Yeah, and this is the holiday season, right? So this is a great time to start thinking about recognizing people. Recognition's an all-year holiday, but especially around Thanksgiving and other holidays, it's always good to think about that. The other thing I would say is the blog post that inspired this PeopleMetrics Live, right, Madeline, has gotten lots and lots of clicks over the years, 30,000 views, right? This blog post.
Yeah, it's definitely a popular one. People are looking for for ideas on how to, everybody wants to recognize their employees, but sometimes those programs might feel like they're overwhelming to get started. So this blog post that we have of some ideas that are kind of outside the box, not as obvious, has been a popular one over the years.
Yeah, and we're excited. We've got a special treat at the end where there's 25 of these ideas that we've shared over the years on recognizing employees, which we think are really practical and something you can implement now. And Kirk, Madeline, and I have chosen our top 3, and we're going to share them. And we don't know what each other's top 3 are, so this is all a surprise to everyone. So we're gonna do that a little later, and that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, like recognition, like Kirk said, it's such an important part of being an engaged employee and having a great experience. And it's really just having a good life, right? If you have any kind of relationship with anyone, recognizing the other person, recognizing that is such an important part of that, right? So recognition goes across your life. It's important. You feel good when you're recognized, and actually you feel good when you recognize others, right? It's a two-way street. And employees definitely feel like that, right? They feel like when they get recognition, they feel really good. They feel like they have a great experience. And when you give them opportunities to provide recognition to their peers, they also feel good. So it's a great thing to think about. Kirk, my audio was cutting out a little. Did you talk at all about the internal communications being this and recognition being like this, the low-hanging fruit for companies?
I talked about recognition. I did not talk about communication, though. So, yes.
Right. So, we've been doing this a long time, like 20 years, as Madeline said, and we look at these, what we call drivers of employee experience and engagement. And some of them are super tough that come out, like career path is one we always see, right, Kirk? People want a career path. And when companies go and try to fix that, which they should, or change that, that's a organizational tough lift, right? Like it takes a lot of resources, energy to do that. Any kind of performance management is another thing we hear, like I want better feedback on my performance. Like, yeah, that's important too. But to tackle that, that's just a lot of work and it's a lot of moving parts. The two things that I always point to clients that you can fix fairly easily, quickly, without a lot of money is being better at communicating with your folks and recognizing them, which is a form of communication, right? So those are much easier to get a bigger impact quicker. And, we talked about internal communications, right? Was it the last PeopleMetrics Live that we did for employee experience, I think?
I think
Alan?
so. Yes, I'm losing track of when they happened, but I think it was the last one that we were talking about.
So we talked a lot about that, the importance of that, and this is a subset of it. And you've looked at a lot of these data sets, Kirk. I mean, you can speak to it. These always seem to come up to the top of really impacting employee experience and being doable, something you can actually do something about today.
Yeah, and that I think is a great point. These are always drivers. Communication's always going to be a driver, and a sense of recognition and feeling valued, that's always going to be a driver. Other things are also, having the resources available. This isn't to say you don't need to focus on these other things. We've had employee surveys where you have employees who are talking about the parking, and it's like, why is it such a struggle for me to park where I work every time I get into? And that's an infrastructure issue that is going to be hard and take time to fix. And so you need to address all of these things and be mindful of these things. However, communicating and recognizing if you're not doing that, you drop the ball on something that really should be possible and easy for you to do if you're being thoughtful about it.
And we do. Kirk and I, and Madeline, we do prep calls before these PeopleMetrics Live, and we talk about some things that we want to make a point of. And one of the things I think we talked about that we should share with the audience is, in today's environment with this COVID pandemic, with more people working remotely, and less human-to-human interactions, face to face, we feel like recognition is never been more important, and communication in general. We talked about that last time, but recognition especially is so critical because it makes people feel like the effort they're expending is worth it and it's meaningful to a larger group of people. And especially if you're sitting in an office all day and not seeing anybody in person, that can go a long way, to keeping people motivated, giving discretionary effort, being like in a good state of mind to do the work they need to do for the organization.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, it's recognition is a part of culture, and so it's in the pandemic. If you're an organization that part or all of your workforce is now working from home, it's harder to maintain that natural culture that you have as an organization. And having recognition, having that kind of peer-to-peer or kind of your manager-to-peer or to employee communication that is recognized for what they do, it starts that organic communication that really builds on the culture from there.
Yeah. So there are all sorts of ways you can recognize employees, right? And we have 25 of them in this blog post. We probably could have written another 25. And some of them have changed if you're not in the office anymore, right? So, there was a company I used to work for before I started PeopleMetrics, and they had a great program where you would write a short note to someone on a piece of paper, and you'd stick it with a little Post-it in their cube, and they would accumulate these like recognition type things. Thank you for your work. You did such a great job. And it was a part of the culture, as Kirk said. And, and it was a surprise. You'd go back to your cubicle and you'd see another, they called them drops. It'd be drops and there'd be a little note on the drop. And, that's obviously for some companies not possible anymore or less possible, right? Publicly, we used to, Kirk, another example of something in office was we used to do at PeopleMetrics at our company meeting every Friday, right? We would do that the thank you rock, right?
Yeah, that we have a little wooden stone, I guess it is a piece of wood that's shaped to look like stone, and it said thank you on it. And each week, someone at the company had the stone and would gift it to someone else to thank you for whatever they did. And the thing about the thank you rock is it was and is this totem that feels very good of the company. you were recognized for this work you do. So and this gets to the idea of these are things that are easy to do and aren't necessarily expensive to do. Of that, we've also done gift cards of the company. Getting the thank you rock is even more impactful than that, because it is this thing. It is a recognition. It is an award that gets passed around each week, and it's more impactful than a Starbucks or whatever gift card you do. And because it is that recognition is the most important part of it.
But so we couldn't do that anymore, and we haven't been able to be together since March. And we talked about this a little bit last time, but we've done another, what we think is a great virtual way to do that. And if you weren't here last time, if you were here last time, excuse us, we're going to repeat the story. But at the end of each weekly company meeting, each person in the Zoom call talks about something they're thankful for or grateful for in their lives. And then essentially they recognize someone at the company for work they've done over the past week. And they're specific about who it is and what they did. So this is a peer-to-peer recognition strategy, which is a really key point, right? Because I think a lot of folks, when they get these surveys back and they say, we got to improve our recognition, they think, well, it's got to be a top-down recognition program. So we've got to get leaders to recognize their managers to recognize the associates, or whatever your structure is. But it doesn't have to be that way, in fact. It can be peer-to-peer, and from what we're seeing, that's as effective, if not more, than the other way. And Madeline, I know you enjoy that part of the meeting especially, and I asked you to tell the story last week.
Yes. You covered all the major points, but I think another great thing about that, and about the thank you rock back in-person times for our company, is that you're also putting a spotlight on one person, right? So that it's not, a gift card on your desk that's just kind of a one-to-one. It's what I loved about the thank you rock and about our Friday gratefulness round, I think we've been starting to call it, is that you're announcing in front of the whole company your thankfulness for someone else, and just putting the spotlight on them for a moment, which I think is great.
Yeah, and I'll open the door a little bit more to PeopleMetrics inner workings. So during the leadership meeting that I run every week, we have, as part of the agenda, in it, we have one piece where each member of the leadership team talks about the people within their group or the company that have done something really great this week. So it's sort of like a shared recognition around the leadership team for people that maybe I haven't interacted with or others haven't interacted with at the company. And then we have another round where we specifically recognize each other. One person has to recognize another person in the leadership team on something they did this week. So recognition flows through PeopleMetrics because we believe in it so much, and it sets the right mindset and focus for people, right? Half the battle of work is getting in the right mindset, and getting in the right mindset requires you to feel like you're appreciated. Easy way to feel appreciated is to get recognized by someone, and that someone, like I said, can be a peer, it can be someone who works for you, or it could be someone that you work for, you report into. And that's, I think, a big takeaway from this PeopleMetrics Live, I would think. Think about recognition like that. It's not top down, it can be all these different ways.
Yeah, and one thing I like that you both mentioned, Sean and Madeline, was how it isn't just individual. The whole idea of recognition is that it is public, it is shared across others, and you get a sense that you are valued. And I can see, maybe if there's someone who's listening, you might listen to all these stories like, boy, that's a lot of recognition you do weekly, in every company meeting. Then in the leadership meeting, you're thanking each other, then thanking other people in the company. But it really is not, and it does not feel forced. It does not feel tired. It actually feels like a core part of what we do, and very important as far as how we define ourselves as a company and as our culture.
Yeah, when I think of it, what do you think in the weekly meeting, Madeline, that takes about how long? You think maybe 10, 15 minutes total? To go all the way around? Something like that?
Yeah, and I think it's also something to look forward to as someone listening to it also, because it's a surprise what every person is experiencing in their personal lives that week. Or, if I'm in one department, I don't know what's happening with our development team every minute of the day, but it's cool to hear about all the things that fun things that happened on their team this week. So
for sure. And Kirk is in the leadership meetings, and what does that take? Like a minute or two total? It's nothing. I mean, this isn't taking lots of time, but to me, it has a big impact. Little time, big impact. For you folks who are doing change management around people strategy and getting feedback from employees, and you're trying to figure out what can I do that makes a big impact that isn't going to take a lot of effort and time, simple recognition tips and strategies is really effective. You're going to see it right away. This isn't going to take months, and it shouldn't take a committee either to figure this out. These should be some high level tips that, you and your team can handle. So Kirk, one other thing that we talked about a little bit before we get into our top three is, some recognition programs can be pretty extensive and formal, and they might be worth it, right? And one of the things we do a lot of customer feedback, right? So we collect customer feedback on their experiences. And employees, we always are asking about their experience with employees. And a lot of times we get feedback from them that employees went above and beyond and wowed them and made their day or made their week or, saved them. And they want to recognize those employees. Those certainly should be shared, right? So it doesn't even have to be recognition from internal organization. It can be sharing that recognition, that piece of feedback from customers to your employees. And that can get pretty formal if you want it to be, right? And we've created some pretty formal programs around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this program that we mentioned on one of our earlier sessions is the Pay It Forward program, where we are fielding a customer survey, and when a customer recognizes an employee that they had a great experience with, whoever they recognized had the opportunity to pay it forward, is to pay this thanks along to another employee. Generally, the way it would work is a customer thanks this external facing employee, someone who's an account manager who they know and they work with. But I, as the account manager, know that there's a whole kind of line of people behind me who made that work and made my customer support possible. And so you pay that customer feedback along forward and recognize the internal employee that helped with that. And that was a formal mechanism where there is a survey program in place. You receive this recognition alert, and then you have a tool in place to forward that along. So you can use formal technological kind of mechanisms as well. And that is helpful, especially in these cases where that was there to solve a specific problem, which can be a common recognition problem of there is a disparity of, as an internal employee, I feel like I do a lot of work, but that's never really shown or understood. And so this is really like how you can use that technology to solve that recognition gap and kind of the work done versus how you're being perceived.
So recognition programs can be as high tech or low tech as you want, as complex or simple as you want. I always would recommend that if you're just starting out and trying to get like some sort of consistency around that, start simple, implement something like we have at the company meeting, where you go around and have somebody, recognize another person, or if you have smaller meetings, put it into those. That's the way you can get the momentum going. I would never recommend you start with something big, right? Because that's just sometimes too much to handle. But just a little bit, get a taste of this, people are really going to, I think, appreciate it, and you'll see some change.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's one of a few different, it's something that you should build on. Start with these informal, just make it part of something that's understood and that employees start to value and appreciate doing amongst each other. And then you build on it from there. And kind of another client I worked with, and they would build it as a sort of quarterly recognition awards, where they did have specific, this was more gift card focused, but it was a meeting that would happen every quarter where it was a mix, and they had the same methodology each time, where a mix of customer feedback as well as kind of internal employee recognition. They built a reward structure where they were recognizing folks every quarter. So start small and build it out.
Yeah, I mean, we've had lots of clients too, just those recognition alerts that I just talked about, where a customer will name a person within that they interacted with at the company that created a great experience for them. We count those up, just simple counts, and whatever frontline person got the most mentions, they get recognized. And this isn't expensive, it's inexpensive, but it's huge impact, and it's setting the tone for the culture also, that you're recognizing people based on the experience they deliver to your customers, which I think, and I'm probably biased now on this, but I think that's the best recognition program you could ever have, because you're bringing your two most important people together in it, your customer and your employee.
Great. That's your customer-centric culture that everybody is trying to get to. That's the way to do it.
That's a practical, right. If somebody didn't see the PeopleMetrics Live on what is customer centricity, that's a good one to view. We go into that a little bit, but yeah, customer-centric culture is a mystery to most, but if you can do things like that, you can make it real. All right, so should we start to dig into what our top 3 is? Should we share the blog post? Can somebody put that up for everybody, for the audience?
I'll put it in the chat here so everybody can check that out. Let's see here. Okay, so if you look in the chat, I just put a link to the blog post that we've been talking about and that we're going to pick our favorites from right now.
All right.
Here are our favorites. Who wants to go first?
I'll go last. One of you guys go first.
So are we starting from? We're starting from bottom to top. Our third, or
your third, or maybe we should maybe we should each go to our third one first, and then we'll go to our second and our first. So we'll just go around. All right. What was your third favorite recognition idea from our article that has gotten 30,000 views over the years? How about you, Kirk? Why don't you start?
My third favorite, hopefully it doesn't get too confusing with the numbers, but is the first one on the list, the arranging for a team to show fruits of their labor to upper management. If you do feel more engaged, to kind of this point, it's all about feeling recognized. And I feel like, we do that well at the company of, if you do something, we do have these company meetings where whoever did this thing is able to share kind of whatever thing that they've done that is of value, and it kind of encourages that kind of growth and innovation. And even with kind of our own clients, I understand that whenever we've made a report at PeopleMetrics, I look to engage whoever I've made that report for to make sure they're part of the presentation, because it is all about, I recognize the work that you've done to be helpful, to be a part of this, sharing this with upper management and show the impact is very important. So I think being mindful of giving someone kind of a platform to share. Let's go.
Madeline, can we bring this up on the screen so everybody's seeing it? I want to make sure that we're able to show it. So it's hard. It may be hard to follow without that.
Yeah, let me see here. 1 second. Okay. Can we see this? It's a little small.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me bring it up here. How's that look?
That's good. Okay, why don't we go down to Kirk's? Your first one was number one. One is one.
Number one.
You can see arrange for a team to show the fruits of their labor to upper management. Yes.
Yep.
All right. And Madeline, what was your third most favorite idea?
My third most favorite was, I liked all of my top 3 pretty equally, but I'll say my third most favorite was a staff appreciation program. That's number 3, staff appreciation program. I really liked this because I was thinking of it through the lens of COVID-19 and where, a perk like a gift card or something like that, going to a nail salon, I don't know, something that's kind of out in the world when people are working remotely isn't as much of an option now. But I think that certain rewards such as flexible work hours or, a day off or leaving early or whatever people value in this time where obviously our priorities have changed is a great way to build those types of rewards into a staff appreciation program like this.
That's super. I love that one too. Okay, my third one was number 11, back on this list. Let's see if we can get to it. Surprise, surprise. I'm always talking about this. So I think this is the fundamental basis to all good recognition is people feel good when you know their name. People feel good when you can listen actively to them. And, smile, handshake, maybe not so much, but like a wave, these are things that employees really feel good about. And even if it's asking them about some accomplishment, personal accomplishment that they're working on a regular basis. To them, that's feeling like you're recognizing them as a person. And I would always say that honing your communication skills, across the board, and making sure that you work with your team on learning people's names and not forgetting them, especially if you have big teams. It's a huge way to get to the employees' hearts. So that would be my third one. All right, so why don't we get a number 2? How about you, Kirk? What's number 2 for you?
One for me is coincidentally number 2. Ask you to nominate.
Did you really look through all of them, or did you just take the top 3? I'm kidding you.
I got really.
For the audience, we don't know what we all chose. This is just we're very much experimenting here. Go ahead.
For my proprietary method of selection, I'll keep that.
Yes.
But it's what I like about this when we look at number 1 and number 2, we're speaking to the different aspects of, number 1 speaks to how do you see that recognition and get that to upper management, but that's not just what recognition is about. It's also about peer-to-peer, and that's very important. So number 2, the reason that is my second most favorite is because most of your interactions, they're going to be with your peers. Set up a structure so people feel comfortable and want to share that with each other, where they're appreciating the work everyone is doing.
I love that one too, Kirk. I mean, and that hits our peer-to-peer point before. This does not have to be top-down. This can be peer-to-peer. And I think in a lot of ways, peers appreciate recognition from their own peers more than top-down.
Definitely.
Okay, Madeline, how about you? What's number 2 for you?
My number 2 is echoing both of what you guys just were talking about, which is number 12, establish relationships between staff and upper management. And I think it speaks to both the communication skills and the peer-to-peer part, right? So if you don't have a relationship with, let's say, someone that's a C-suite or something like that, someone that's higher up than you, getting recognition from them it doesn't feel like a peer because you don't have a personal relationship with that person. And I think especially now when we're all sitting at home in our little bubbles, it's you have to kind of make more of an effort to have those cross-departmental kind of mixers between employees for just people to get to know each other better. I just love this idea of kind of mixing it up, getting people outside of their own teams, and getting to know people on all different levels of management in the organization.
Definitely. That is a great one. And my second one is number 10. One of the things we've done a long time at PeopleMetrics is celebrate personal parts of employees' lives, and that's birthdays and employment anniversaries, really. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have cake, obviously, these days every time. It can be like we do a lot of funny gifts on Slack or Teams that we throw out there for people who have anniversaries with us, work anniversaries and birthdays. And I think it just goes a long way. And the point I want to make on these is recognition programs don't have to be complicated, expensive at all. It can be as simple as this, is following, no matter how you want to do it, make sure that you have a list of all of your people's birthdays and when they started, and do something and just put that in your calendar, and then reach out to them either personally, or if you have a culture where that reach out is across the whole company, do it like we do through a common channel on something like Slack or Teams. I know everybody enjoys that, right, Madeline and Kirk, when we do that?
They're very, very creative GIFs that we've seen over the years.
Impressive. This selection is.
Yes. All right, and a drum roll, please. Okay, what's the number one idea, Kirk, that we have in?
I made it almost to the bottom of the list. I wonder if this is yours as well. Is make it formal, write a letter, number 23.
There we go.
Which, and for my top 3, I tried to touch on something that, I myself, and I think our customers, our employee experience customers have valued, which is we spoke to the management recognition, we spoke to peer-to-peer recognition, and this last one is really around the personalization of it. And Sean, I know you've talked a lot about this in the past, and you have written letters for folks at the company to give them thanks. Something that's personalized really is very impactful in a way that's, receiving an email is good, of course, but receiving an actual handwritten letter, receiving something that is personalized has a major impact. And so if you are, part of your company is still working in person, or if you are able to send letters just to wherever people are working remotely, that's something, especially if it's handwritten, that really shows you see that person, recognize them, and kind of took the time to express that.
Yeah, that's a great one. That was definitely on the cusp of my top 3. Okay, Madeline, what's your top one?
My top one is number 5, which is pass on the praise. I know Kirk mentioned this in the Pay It Forward program, but I love the idea of passing along the recognition, giving credit, recognizing people that are working behind the scenes, especially if you're in a company or in a setting where you've got your frontline employees that are facing and interacting with customers every day. Of course, in their customer surveys, they're going to get a lot of recognition for the great services that they provided to customers. But I think that passing that along to people that are, in the back office running numbers, making reservations, doing whatever that they're doing, recognizing their coworkers, I think is just a great way to connect the customers to employees and employees to each other too. So I love that one.
I do too. It's a great one. And this is incredible. So we didn't have any overlap because my number 1 is number 7. And the reason why it's my number 1 is, the best recognition is as personal as you can get it. Now, you may not be in an office to call the employee in, but we all have telephones, right? Where we have these things, right? Whatever these are, they're like mini computers. But you can call, or you could Zoom, or you can talk and thank them in person. And sometimes, and Kirk and Madeline know this, sometimes I'll say, hey, do you have a second? And the second is just to thank you for something and to recognize you for something, right? And there's nothing wrong. Just like we say here, is there something wrong when the supervisor calls you? It shouldn't always be that way. So I just love that one because it's person to person, it's human, it's easy, and it has a huge impact. But I love your 3 too. Yeah, all of them are great.
Yeah, and there's even more than that, right? Between us, that was just 9 out of the 25. So yeah, and I can't believe we didn't have any overlap. I'm impressed.
Yeah. We're independent thinkers.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Well, that worked. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I think we'll wrap this one up, right, Madeline? At this point?
Definitely.
Or we have questions. Is there questions? We should.
Yeah. Let me check the Q&A here. So, this is a good one. So, should we be focused on recognition throughout the year, or is this an end of year milestone based focus?
The answer is it's not an event. It is a process. So the best recognition programs are the ones that last all year long, but you can get momentum now. Like this is a great time to start one, right? And then continue it throughout the year. What do you think, Kirk?
I would agree. Yeah. Recognition is definitely something that you need to make people see regularly and want to participate in. So it should be year round. And once you kind of bake it in, build it into these milestones as well. Do something that's special and particular every quarter or what have you. But kind of make it a part of your everyday. And that's just as important.
Yeah, and I think the other question that I've got here, we've spoken to a lot already, but should we, if we're just starting to do employee recognition, should it be a low tech or a high tech recognition process to start?
Yeah, and that's a good one. It really depends on your culture, but I'd say in general, the simplest and easiest is the best way to begin, which is probably a lower tech way to do it. But these days, if you're not in person, there may be some tech involved. So you may have to be using meetings like this Zoom meeting in order to deliver the recognition, or you may need to use Slack or Teams or whatever you happen to use to communicate as a vehicle. Right? Would you add anything to that, Kirk?
Yeah, I think that's I would say generally start simple and kind of build it out from there. But whether you're doing something that is just conversational, low tech, or something that is a more technical solution like a pay it forward or more implement a program, the most important thing is that you are keeping it personalized and that you have this sense of this is a personal recognition. You have been seen and appreciated. So that's what
Awesome. Well, thank you both for this fun conversation. It was fun to do our reveal of our favorite employee recognition ideas from that blog post. And I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And thank you all for joining us for PeopleMetrics Live today. If you have any friends or colleagues that couldn't make it to this session, there's no worries there. The recording of this session and all previous sessions of PeopleMetrics Live are always available on our YouTube channel. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you were looking for more employee experience content and thought leadership, you can definitely check out and subscribe to our employee experience blog. That's at www.peoplemetrics.com/ex-blog for more content on employee experience. And on the flip side, if you're interested in measuring customer experience or have any colleagues that are in that space, I highly recommend checking out Sean's book, which is called Listen or Die, 40 Lessons That Turn Customer Feedback into Gold. That is all about CX measurement. It's awesome. It's a really quick read. Again, like the title says, 40 lessons that we've learned over the years. And a lot of those lessons also apply to employee experience as well. So that's available on Amazon. You can get it for Kindle or paperback, whatever you prefer for your reading experience. And yeah, we'll be back soon with more PeopleMetrics Live. We've got a lot of great suggestions from all of you over this time of doing our first wave of 8 sessions, and we'll be rolling out some more sessions in the coming weeks. So definitely keep an eye out on our events page for more information on that. That's at www.peoplemetrics.com/events. And like I said earlier, while you're waiting, you can always catch previous recordings of PeopleMetrics Live on our YouTube channel. So as always, we love to hear from all of you. Please keep sending us all of your questions about EX and CX to peoplemetrics.com/contact. And thank you all again for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.